Time now for our international press review, and for that we're joined once again in the studio by Diptyque Laurent. Hi, Diptyque.
Hi, Hexie.
Now, the unrest among European farmers block-wide continuing today. Tractors continuing to block major roads across France and Belgium, even stationed outside the European Parliament this Thursday morning.
Yeah, it's garnering a lot of press in Europe. Let's start with the Belgian press. Le Soir. Le Soir is talking about how protesters blockaded the streets leading into the capital, Brussels. Thousands of farmers are expected to descend upon the capital. This obviously coming as ministers arrive for that very important European Council summit being held this Thursday. The farmers' protests also making news here on the front of Il Manifesto, the Italian daily, which is also looking at those tractor blockades across Europe, the anger felt by farmers at EU agricultural legislation, also their threats posed to their industry because of the Ukraine war. These are all issues that are expected to top that agenda of the European Council summit.
And farmers are angry about a whole range of issues they say continue to threaten their livelihoods.
That's right. Poor working conditions, low pay, free trade agreements. The environment is also a big factor, a big preoccupation for farmers. This is something that Le Figaro is looking at. What do farmers want from Europe? That's what Le Figaro says on its front page here. The EU's transition to cleaner energies will impose farmers to change their ways, and they say it would negatively impact their livelihood. But on the other hand, the agricultural sector is one of the most polluting. So there is the dilemma. Farmers essentially want compensation for this transition to cleaner energies. There's also the issue of fallowing. It's an issue that has been spoken about a lot in the French press. In French, it's la jachère. The issue of fallowing is essentially EU legislation requires European farmers to reserve a small portion, about 4% of their fertile lands to fallowing, which is essentially the process of not cultivating that land for a certain period of time to allow the soil to regenerate and to restore biodiversity to the area. Farmers say this affects their livelihood and their capacity to produce and then sell food. The measure was temporarily suspended when the war in Ukraine broke out. That measure was suspended. The suspension ended last year, and farmers want that measure to be extended now. Libération, the left-wing paper, also looking at this issue on its front page. But looking more widely at the issue of ecology. The paper asks on its front page, what if ecology was indeed the answer to this crisis? For too long, the paper says farmers have, at least France's major farming union has advocated for more land to develop pork farms, no matter the cost to the environment. It has lobbied the EU for the use of more pesticides and demanded exceptions to use more water for its agricultural practices. On the other hand, groups representing environmental rights have perhaps been too morally superior, always lecturing the agricultural sector without taking into account their very legitimate economic needs. It's time for both sides to stop staring at each other stonily, the paper says, and start trying to find a common way out of this crisis.
Well, Diptyque, funding for the war in Ukraine is going to be a top priority for that EU summit this Thursday. The Ukrainian press, meanwhile, today focusing on an emerging power battle between President Volodymyr Zelensky and the head of the military in Ukraine.
Yeah, General Valery Zaluzhny, he's the head of the army. Perhaps not for long, though. He and Volodymyr Zelensky have had some real tensions between the two men recently. Zaluzhny valiantly defended Ukraine when the war broke out. He stalled Russia's advance. He also pushed it back with ingenuity and tact. Now, the details of this power battle is in the New York Times today. his fate as the head of the army is in peril. It's not because of his waning popularity. Rather, he's extremely popular in Ukraine, and that may well be the problem. According to some, he's actually more popular than the president himself, which could be the source of some of those tensions. For Zelensky, the faltering counteroffensive in the south has sparked a lot of frustration, and perhaps he needs a fall guy for that. Earlier this week, MPs say that Zelensky asked the general to resign. The general refused, and Zelensky is now mulling over whether he will fire him or not. In any case, if there is a change at this very high level in the military, it would create headaches for everyone. That's what the press explained today. Ukraine's allies would have to adjust to a new general and a new general's way of working, while Zelensky would lose the valuable experience gleaned by this general in almost the first 2 years of this war. According to the Kyiv Post, which asked members of the military what they thought, the military say they're standing firmly behind the general and say politicians should mind their own business.
Well, Dipti, the founder of PayPal, Peter Thiel, and a bunch of other billionaires, it should be said, are funding what can only be described as the anti-Olympics.
Yeah, they're called the Enhancer Games. The games will include many of the same sports that you see at the conventional Olympics, like track and field, swimming, athletics, gymnastics. It's organized by a myriad of venture capitalists and billionaire Peter Thiel, who's actually the co-founder of PayPal. The aim of the games is to help athletes break world records that will not be recognized in the safety of a doping-friendly environment. It sounds ludicrous. It is. According to Gizmodo, the whole point of the Enhancer Games is not to test athletes for drugs. The group even hired a doctor to vouch for the games. This doctor is quoted as saying that drug testing is not necessarily in the best interest of athletes. I dare say those who have suffered serious consequences as a result of taking steroids might disagree. In any case, it's on the front. It's on this in this article from Gizmodo. This picture, obviously, it must be said, a Photoshop of Peter Thiel's head on the body of some bodybuilder, I guess.
Noticeably lacking a neck. So, yeah, not a hugely
realistic
Photoshop job there. And Dipti, you're ending with another sports story of sorts.
Yeah, this one might be more palatable for you and I, Haxi. It's like everything these days, it's not newsworthy until a billion people are talking about it on TikTok. Well, this new movement is called the quadrupedal movement training. It's a new fad in workout videos, and it essentially has people moving their bodies like an animal, but horizontally, using horizontal movement, which many say use muscles that are often neglected in traditional workouts. You can try some of these at home. Let's see if I can show you a video, Haxi, of these sort of movements. Here you go. I think this is the crocodile movement, possibly. Looks doable, right?
I'm not so sure about that.
You have this one here as well, the sideward crawl. There you go, hopping like a frog, I guess.
Yeah, that's the way you made it to the studio just now.
Exactly.
Dipti Laurent with a look through the international press and some interesting movements on online. Thank you very much.